Hello there, and welcome to Breakfast All Day, guys. Good to see you. I'm Christy. That is Matt. That is Alonso. So, our first movie of the day, we are talking about The Many Saints of Newark. It is a prequel to The Sopranos. Who's talking about it? Alonso?
Yeah, so it's begins in the late 60s, moves its way into the early 70s, and is narrated from beyond the grave by Christopher Moltisanti, Michael Imperioli's character. And it's mainly about Christopher's dad, Gentleman Dick Moltisanti, played by Alessandro Nivola, and sort of that era of that crime family. We get to meet a young Tony Soprano, who is eventually played by Michael Imperioli. Who's eventually played by Michael Gandolfini, thank you. Sorry, the son of the late James Gandolfini. We get some insight as to what made him the, neurotic mess that he became as an adult. We meet a younger Livia Soprano, played by Vera Farmiga, I never watched Bates Motel, but I guess this is the same mode of bad mom. The movie talks a lot about whether or not Livia would have benefited from antidepressants, and while A, true, but B, kind of reductive to an interesting character. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Story-wise, we get a lot of the conflicts between Dick and his good friend Harold, played by Leslie Odom Jr. Harold sort of runs the numbers and other stuff among the Black community of Newark, and pays up the ladder to the Italians. Eventually wants to go to business for himself, and that causes some struggle. We get to see that Dick is also sort of a surrogate father for Tony, because his own father goes off to jail for a while. There's a lot of Easter eggs. If you're a big Soprano fan, you get to see younger Uncle Junior, played by Corey Stoll. You get to see younger Silvio and Polly Walnuts and characters like that, and Janice. But I didn't feel like this told me anything new or particularly essential about these characters. And I think part of it is obviously, you have a show that lasts for seasons. You've got this real estate to really lay out these psychologically rich characters. And this is not that. It's a movie, and there's only so much you can cram into it. I did find the conflicts between Dickie and Harold to be interesting, because we haven't seen a lot of movies about the sort of Black crime families butting up against Italian crime families, which I thought was an interesting dynamic. But I didn't, as far as the Jim Henson's Tony Soprano babies part, I was less into it.
It is definitely for Sopranos fans. You've got to know this show and really love it to appreciate the callbacks to the series. I went back and rewatched the series finale and realizing there are callbacks to important things that happen in the series finale in this movie that make them poignant. Michael Gandolfini is really, really great playing, a difficult role on so many levels, because not only is he so physically resembles his father, but he's not doing a Tony Soprano impression, because he's not that guy yet. Right. We begin to see glimmers of him in his speech and his the way he carries himself, and of course facially he resembles him so much. It's eerie.
He hunches over the way
his dad. Yeah. And the eyes and the smirk are very similar. It's a tough character to play in general, but also tough because it's your father's enormous shoes to fill, and he steps up to all of that. And this is,
he's no O'Shea Jackson Jr. Let's be fair, but he's fine. He's
really good.
He does what is called upon him. But I think he's also, like I said, I think he's saddled with the least interesting part of the
movie. Yes, in that, as we see so often in superhero origin stories, the person at the center is maybe not the most interesting, and it's the other characters surrounding them that chew up more of the scenery, or they have, larger than life persona. Alessandro Nivola does not get a chance to be a leading man very often. And he's always been a really solid character actor, really solid supporting player. He chooses really interesting stuff. Our kids used to go to the same preschool.
Ooh.
I hung out with him at a birthday party at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Speaking of the Peterson, I hung out with him 8 years ago at a birthday party. He was very sweet, but he's great in this. He is, because he's got to play this character who's kind of Shakespearean tragedy origins. He's got all this potential, and he's so at the whim of his impulses and emotions that he's constantly self-sabotaging. I agree. This is kind of Muppet Babies a little bit, especially with some of the portrayals, like John Magaro's Silvio Dante is so mannered and so sticky, but then like Vera Farmiga is amazing as Livia. I mean, there are moments of greatness, and then there are moments of like, like we see a young blonde woman, and then Tony's saying, Carmela, give me a quarter for the phone. And it feels kind of wedged in. It's like they're trying to take an entire season of television and cram it into a 2-hour movie. And so all of the subplot with Leslie Odom Jr. feels kind of frustratingly underdeveloped, but it's got this very rich sense of place. And if you love these characters, you'll be happy to see them.
I did like that they make Vera Farmiga kind of look like Edie Falco, so which gives Tony a whole sort of psychological thing for later. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, I think that this would have done a lot better as a series, because it goes through so many things so fast that would have been more interesting had there been more time. The other thing is, there's a moment where Chris from Beyond the Grave says that he wished he had been working before the RICO statute went into place. That's the show I want to see. Like the show that I think would have been really cool, and the thing with these guys is, these gangsters have to change how they do stuff because RICO hits in 1970 and suddenly they can't hide behind like, well, I didn't kill anybody, right? And that had to have changed things, and that would have been really interesting, but they only touch on that, like they only really mention it in passing, and you don't get the sense of these guys have a world that's changed around them,
right?
That is suddenly making things a lot more difficult.
As Dave said, the great thing about being on Sopranos is that whenever you want to kill somebody, no one's around.
Yeah, exactly. I did like Ray Liotta in this. I liked him more as the brother.
Don't.
He gets to show a lot of range, though.
Yeah.
We can say that for sure.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Tim Grierson after the screening because, as I mentioned in our news segment, we had to physically go and see this. And Tim thought it was interesting to show that Tony Soprano's mentor is actually kind of empty is a bold choice. I don't think he's empty at all. I think that this is profound in that you see how these winds kind of push Tony in one direction or another. And like one little wisp of conversation, might dictate what his path is, or like a meeting that happens or doesn't happen dictates what his path is. Something that is said in passing at a funeral dictates what his path is going to be. And we see in this great scene with Talia Balsam as the principal of his school that he's brilliant and he's gifted and he's a leader. And you see the possibility that maybe Tony might have had a life that was rich and full and not based on crime. And that is an interesting path to explore.
Even if he just had a different mother, right? Like, even if he had anyone but Livia as his mother, that would have let him, have the confidence in himself to go a different path.
Right. But we get all that from The Sopranos.
I know.
That's the thing. This movie's kind of just gilding the lily. It's like this is a show where he's literally on the fucking psychiatric couch, like for a third of the running time. So we know all of this.
True.
And this movie is just now making manifest the sort of building blocks of this character that we've already gleaned from everything else. And so it's like, why does this movie exist? I think is the ultimate question. And I don't really know apart from fan service.
I think it's showing what might have been for Tony. What path he might have gone down that that would not have given us 6 seasons of award-winning, groundbreaking television.
and a little bit of it is,
and who wants that?
Gentleman Dick, Alessandro Nivola's character, is trying to make up for the things he's done wrong, right? Or at least he's trying to offset, right? When he's like, when somebody asks him, how are your merit badges?
Right.
Right. And yes, we see a whole series about that with, from time to time with Tony trying to do the same thing.
Trying to expiate themselves.
Right. It's almost a tragedy that Dickie didn't get a chance to go to therapy.
Yeah.
Anyway, I am glad I saw it, but yeah, that is a valid question. Why does it exist? It's a curiosity. It's for
Sure.
fans. Like if you've never seen The Sopranos, none of this is going to matter to you. Right?
You definitely you need to watch the pop-up video version. Yeah.
I do really quickly want to say though that the production design and the costumes and the cars are exquisite.
Yeah,
Absolutely exquisite.
Like the show, this is a beautifully crafted piece of work. It's shot very well. The period detail totally nailed. Love the costumes and all that stuff. I mean, there's nothing slipshod about that.
No.
I just, in the larger sense, that I don't know why it exists.
Right. David Chase wrote it. Alan Taylor, who directed a bunch of episodes, directed it. Yeah, very rich sense of place for sure. And it moves really well, but it's almost like too much in a movie. Anyway, I would, again, like you guys, I would like some room to breathe. So I'm saying 6.5.
I said 6.2.
You did.
Yeah.
I'm saying 7.
All right. Our number 6.6. The Many Saints of Newark, the Multisanti of Newark, is in theaters and also on your HBO Max.
Yes, through October 31st.
I just got that.
Oh, Multisanti. Get it?
I have a big brain.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us at BeFastAllDay on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out our Patreon at patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. Wrapping up season 2 of Ted Lasso, only 2 episodes left, getting into the morning show, which is as wackadoo as you can imagine. And we've got a horror movie classic coming around the corner that our Patreon subscribers will choose for us, so maybe become one. Patreon.com/BeFastAllDay. And it's also where you can watch these reviews without the pesky ads that you have to see on YouTube. So there's that. Until next time, bye.
Bye.
Wait, they're in Newark?